Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pro MMA Betting Podcast. We're going to talk about the very weak UFC 243 card, co-main and main event, excellent fights, but besides that, real disappointing cards. So we're going to go through the card as always, top to bottom. It's going to be quite a quick recap on a lot of the fights, because fights I'm not really interested in from a casual perspective or from a betting perspective. As always, we'll recap on how we did last week. So UFC Copenhagen was a good event for members on pre-betting. We won 2.7 units. Live betting, we won marginal profit on, I can't remember the fight. It was the fight that was deemed a draw. The Brandon Davis fight was deemed a draw, and ultimately they gave the decision to Giga. So we won a small amount on live betting there. I wasn't actually around for the main event, so there was no live betting tips for the main event. It was just the 4 preliminary fights that we had live betting for, but except for that Giga fight, there wasn't anything we pulled the trigger on. So small profit on live betting as well. So overall, over 3 units profit on the UFC. Really happy with that. We, as Pro MMA Betting, had an excellent event. Normally, I don't add bets on fight day because normally I do my tape a week in advance, and I've just learned from experience that if I do a bet on fight day, normally it's not a smart idea, because why didn't I bet this particular fight kind of days before when I first did tape, and 24 hours to think about it, still didn't bet it. I just always find that if I do add a bet on fight day, I'm normally forcing the bet and things don't normally go well. But Jack Shaw was just eating away at me all week. I really wanted to bet him. As I've said on here before, I've followed Cage Warriors religiously. I've made a lot of money betting on Cage Warriors. I knew how good he was, but I was just worried about him getting the takedown. But ultimately I did pull the trigger. Bet slips were posted on the Twitter account. I did pull the trigger on fight day, and man, he made it look way easier than I thought he was going to. Literally ran through the guy. So impressive debut performance there, albeit part of the reason I bet Shaw was a fade on Hernandez. I didn't rate him, and ultimately he proved that he isn't UFC worthy. We also bet John Phillips. That was a bet that was sent out to members, but as a bit of a hedge, I bet the under 1.5 as well on that one, and that came in. I mean, how long did that fight last? 10 seconds. So that was unbelievable how easily that one came in. So that was really nice for us. And then, as I said last week when I broke down the main event, Hermansson Cannonier, I had a bet on Cannonier. After I did tape, I regretted the bet on Cannonier, but there was no way for me to buy out, so I just had to let it ride because the line just got worse on Joker. And that even came in for me, so I couldn't believe that. And then also, I don't normally bet props. It's difficult for me to get money down, and I'm just not a prop bettor in general, but I really liked Madsen KO. So I got my pal to put pretty big bet on Madsen KO, and that came in as well. So these weren't tipped bets, but bets that I just made just because I had a good gut feeling on, and they all came in. Posted the bet slips, stakes. They're on Twitter. You can see them there. So yeah, we had a really good night. Members had a really good night, and we had a doubly good night as a tipster group, because everything pretty much came in. The only bet we lost on all night was Macau. I've still not watched that fight. As I said, I was away for the main card, so I've watched half of the fight so far. I've still not seen that Macau one. I'm not in a rush to watch it because it ruined what would have been an absolutely massive night. So yeah, really good night for us. Just to recap on the service, guys, so I'm running a special offer at the moment for October, where we are offering for 1 year, for the next 12 months, pre-bets and live betting tips for £195. That's an unprecedented offer. You're not going to find that anywhere else in the market space. It works out about $240 if you're an American listener. You get pre-bets and live betting tips. If you just want live betting, or you just want the pre-bets, offering it for £150 for the year, or works out about $180. I know I've got competitors out there that offer just live betting tips for, it's either £200 or $200 per month. Absolute joke, guys. You're getting ripped off. I'm offering you this for the year. All of my bets are third party tracked. No one tracks their bets like I do. When I say my bets are third party tracked, I'm not just doing what a lot of tipsters will do. They have the year 2018 plus 53 units. I have every single bet documented, every single live bet's documented, every single pre-bet's documented. Everything is documented. I am as transparent as can be. You will never see someone call me out for lack of transparency on Twitter or posting on these videos. We are as transparent as you can be. All of our bets, as I said, third party tracked. If you use at least £50 units, you're probably going to cover your investment for the year in a couple of shows, guys, and the rest is just going to be profit. Members that use £100 per unit are up over £10,000 this year. It's a great way to build a second income. We treat this as investing, not gambling. We're very careful with our money. I'm a cautious bettor. As I've said on here many times before, I'm not going to recommend you risk 30 units per event. Absolute bankroll suicide. Couple of bad events, you've wiped out 60% of your bankroll. 3 bad events, you've practically wiped out your bankroll. No way in hell will we do that. Most we generally ever risk is 10 units per event. Very rare for us to go over that. On average, it's more like 5 units per event. Your bankroll is safe with us, guys. We've made money year on year. If you can take advantage of the pre-bets and the live betting, I can't guarantee you anything because ultimately we are putting our money on the trust of fighters. So, nothing is guaranteed, but nothing's guaranteed in life really. So, but year on year I've been making money. As I've said before, this has changed my life. Made a ridiculous amount of money from betting on MMA, and that's what we stick to, MMA and boxing. I don't bet other sports. I don't give you tips on other sports. It's just ridiculous. I stick to what I know, and this is what we make money on. So guys, for £195 or $240 for 12 months, you get pre-bets and live betting tips. There's going to be bets pretty much every weekend. UFC's on, you've got boxing on, you've got Bettors, you've even got combat. I don't tend to bet on anything bar the UFC and boxing. Bellator and that, I will be getting more invested into that next year. I'm going to start really breaking down and capping the fights, but I don't really have time at the moment, and it's just the weirdest stuff seems to happen over there, and it's not even a one-off. It seems to be every show something bizarre happens. But I will, when I have more time next year, it's definitely something I'm going to add to my repertoire, see how we can do on that, add another income stream. And even like combat, there's a lot of combat shows going on now. They release full lines for them, so I just don't have time to cap the fights. I'm not going to rush and force a bet. I need to sit down and do full tape and analyse properly, so that's why I kind of avoid them at the moment. But UFC and boxing, there's still bets pretty much every week. You're going to make money over the course of a year. You need to treat it as an investment, guys, so a long-term investment. It's a marathon, not a sprint. We can't win every week. It's impossible. No one wins every week. There's UFC's probably 40 weeks of the year, boxing on top. You're looking at probably 47, 48 weeks a year. We're going to have action on, or there's at least stuff available to bet on. We can't win every week, so you've got to take the long-term view. There's going to be variance. There's going to be spells where we have a great run. There's going to be spells where we have a bad run, but you need to take the long-term view that over the course of a year we are going to make profit. As I've said, £100 bettors with the pre-bets and the live betting combined, they are up over 100 units, over £10,000 for the year. If you're interested in the offer, drop me a DM or send us an email, info@prommmabetting.com. I've not coded the website with the new offers, so you just need to drop me a message so I can give you the PayPal address, which is info@prommmabetting.com. You make the £195 or $240 payable through that address on PayPal, and just drop me a message when you do pay to let me know. I don't get notifications for payments made direct through PayPal, so just drop me a message to let me know. We are going to have live betting this Friday. There's boxing from 8 PM in the UK. There's 4 fights, actual competitive fights as well. We done the live betting last Friday on the boxing, and it was just squash matches. It was a bit of a joke, but this is 4 competitive fights. I expect the live betting to be decent, so that's 8 PM Friday, UK time, and then we've got the UFC 243 live betting from 1 a.m. Sunday morning UK time. So we're going to have hopefully double bubble on the weekend plus the pre-bet. So fingers crossed we have another good weekend. So that's the service in a nutshell, guys. We're now going to break down the UFC 243 card. As I said, it's going to be pretty quick because I don't like this card. It's pretty weak for a pay-per-view card. Only really interested in the co-main and the main event. So we'll start from the bottom, but we're going to work through it quickly. First fight is Khalid Taha taking on Bruno Silva, Bantamweight division. First thing to note here is Bruno Silva's really a flyweight. I mean, he has fought at Bantamweight in the past, but I've seen him at Flyweight, and he's got the frame of a flyweight. Taha's a pretty big Bantamweight. We saw him fight Narimani at 145 and ultimately got out wrestled, but you can tell he's a strong, muscular guy. Taha, he's got good cardio, high paced 3 rounds with Narimani on short notice, and he looked good over the 3 rounds for me. Coming off a quick win over Boston Salmon, lovely knockout win. He's definitely got sharp hands. I remember I bet Narimani to beat Taha purely based on Nad being able to wrestle him and grind him out, which is what he'd done, because that was Taha's weakness pre-UFC. You could see a couple of fights that he'd struggled with the grappling, but his stand-up always looked sharp, and he's definitely got power in his hands. He's spent some time at not American Top Team, AKA. I've seen some pictures on Instagram with him, with Khabib, so hopefully he's been working hard on his wrestling. But I really like his stand-up. I think the guy's got some decent potential. Bruno Silva, there's a lack of tape out there on him. I found the 7-second knockout loss that he suffered. I mean, it's bad because it's not a great opponent, but you can't really read too much from it. It's just been caught. You know, I'm not going to take much from that fight. I did find his fight with Casey Kenny, 3-round fight. He looked good in the first round actually, but Kenny looks really good, but on the Contender Series, Kenny didn't look so good. And this was back before the Contender Series fight. So I think Kenny's made quite a big leap in his game over the last couple of years. So although he did look good against Kenny in round 1, I'm trying not to take too much from it, because I saw Kenny struggle on the Contender Series against some like 35-year-old guy. So I don't want to read too much into that performance. But Bruno, I mean, he did look good in round 1, but ultimately Kenny started getting to him in round 2 and round 3. He slowed down Silva. So I really think Taha's size and power is going to be a problem here for Bruno Silva. I've not got a full grasp on Silva's game because I've only really seen the one fight with him that lasts more than 7 seconds. So I don't know if he can utilise his wrestling. I've just got a feeling he's going to be too small to really get Taha down to the mat consistently here. Taha needs to fight a bit more intelligently than he did against Narimani. He kept going for stepping knees and throwing kicks that he was getting taken down off of. Stepping knees that were allowing Nad to close the distance. So he just needs to try and fight a bit longer, use his brain. But I just think his physicality and power is going to be too much for Bruno Silva here. So I'm going to go with Taha to win. They're bantamweights. I'm not sure if he's going to knock him out. That head kick knockout that Silva suffered was really bad. He was out cold. So I'll probably go with Taha to win inside the distance here by keeping the fight on the feet and just outclassing him. Next we've got Nadia, Kassem, Yeon, Kim. A lot of people are on Kim here. The line first came out, I think Kim was the underdog even. By the time I got to look at tape, Kim was, I think she'd been better. I mean, it's hard for me to bet openers. I do have bet online, but you know, I bet big stakes, and the openers on bet online, it's fairly small limits. So it's, you know, I normally have to concede that I'm going to get the line at least 0.5 points worse than where it opened, then I just have to accept that. But Nadia, I mean, she isn't great. Grappling's a real weakness for her. We haven't seen much of her stand up, but from the spells we saw against Chambers, I thought it's the kind of at range her stand up looks okay. We haven't seen it in a couple of years. We didn't really get to see it in her last fight. She just got wrestle fucked, and I bet against her in her last fight because I was pretty confident she was going to get wrestled like that, and she did. Kim, though, is probably going to give her the fight she wants, which is on the feet. So it's going to be interesting to see Kassem's full arsenal on the feet. as I said, I didn't think a stand-up looked that bad against Chambers. I know Chambers isn't good, but you know, and we're a couple of years further on, so she could have developed her stand-up. Kim, I did the tape on Kassem, then I tried to do tape on Kim, and I just like, I'm not betting this fight. I'm not betting Kim as a big favourite or a moderate favourite. You know, I've missed the dog money or the close to evens line, so I just gave up on Kim tape because it was just like, it was just no fun at all. So I'll pick Kim here, but there's no way I'm betting the fight. Kim is now she's minus 170. Like, yeah, it's a pass for me. I need to see Nadia Kassim's full arsenal on the feet before I consider her as a dog, and I haven't really. So, but we probably get to see that here because this is going to be a stand-up fight, highly likely. Fight goes to a decision, minus 350. I mean, it's juiced, but it's women's MMA. It's going to be a stand-up fight. I'd be surprised if there's a finish. I wouldn't go big, but if you're looking for a parlay leg, I don't think that's a bad leg for a one-unit play potentially. But pass fight for me, guys. But I'm going to pick Kim probably to win a decision. First fight on the Fox preliminary card. I don't know if it's Fox anymore, but you can live bet these fights anyway. So the first live bettable fight, Megan Anderson, Zarah Santos. Megan's probably going to get the fight she's been craving in the UFC here. She's going to get a fight on the feet. Zarah's very raw, but what I did notice from watching tape on her is from watching a fight from, I think it was about 3.5 years ago, to a fight 18 months later, she definitely had improved. She was better at fighting at range, not smothering her work so much, and there's no tape available for her in the last 2 years, so I do expect further improvements in that 2 years space of time. I have to favour Megan here though. She looks dangerous on the feet. She looked very good against Holly Holm on the feet. Holm wanted nothing to do with her on the feet. Holm looked in jeopardy any time that fight was standing. So I am confident that Megan Anderson is probably going to be too much for Zarah, but with the 2 year lack of tape and the clear improvements she made in the previous 18-month layoff, and the line being minus 500, is it still? Yep, clear as day, pass. Guys, you had your juiced women's MMA warning last week with Landsberg upsetting, can't even remember the woman's name, Macy Kassem. Don't be paying minus 500 here, guys. Not a wise choice. Fight goes to decision. It's plus 155 for a women's MMA fight. Interesting. That is interesting. I mean, Megan is pretty dangerous standing. She did look good against Holm. Holm didn't like the stand-up at all. So, but we haven't really seen Megan's stand-up in the UFC besides that Holm fight. So again, we're going back to Invicta, and I think that was maybe like 3 years ago. So we've got like a 3 year kind of gap here with Megan as well. So her stand-up could have made a quantum leap. So there's a lot of unknowns with this one. But fight goes to decision. Plus 155 for women's MMA. Look, there could be a finish here. Megan could finish her, but that seems pretty juicy. Plus 155. That's interesting for women's MMA. Plus 155. It's going to be a stand-up fight. I don't see it hitting the mat. I mean, Megan is, she does have some power, but yeah, I think, guys, that's worth looking into. Plus 155. First time I've seen that, but that is interesting. But the money line just swerved. I'm not really interested in Zarah as the underdog. Look, I can't fault anyone if you're throwing half a unit on Zarah at plus 400, but pass fight for me, guys. Pass. Next fight, we've got Jamie Mullarkey taking on Brad Riddell. I didn't do tape on this fight, guys, purely because Brad Riddell, I could find one full MMA fight which lasted about 2.5 minutes against a 1 and 2 guy, and brief clip of an opponent pulling guard on him and armbarring him. I know he trains at City Kickboxing. He's Volkanovski's striking coach. He's got a decorated striking background, but I don't touch fights where there's an inherent lack of tape. I learnt that a long time ago. It's a complete pass for me. I see a lot of people kind of trying to jump on Riddle because of his striking background and so forth, and yeah, you might be right. Maybe he does dust this guy, but no, for me, I bet intelligently, I bet informed. There's no way you can be fully informed on this. People are speculating on his takedown defence just because he trains at City Kickboxing Academy. I need to see it. before I start risking money on it. So complete pass for me. I'm not even making a prediction, guys, because I just haven't dug deep enough into that fight. So pass fight for me. Well, you can't dig deep into it; it's impossible. So everyone should really be passing, in my opinion. Callan Potter taking on Maki Pitolo next. We saw Maki on the Dana White Contender Series up at middleweight. Took on Justin, I think it was Sumter. A massive size disadvantage Maki was at in that fight. He's a Hawaiian guy, nicknamed Coconut Bombs. He trains with Yancy Medeiros over in Hawaii. 3-fight winning streak for him. There's quite a bit of tape on Maki available. I remember taping him for the Dana White Contender Series, and you can see I went back and watched. He's got his 2 fights with Cassius. I thought his name's Cassius Holdorf, striker. Won the first fight, 5-round decision. Showed solid cardio. Lost the second fight. The rematch they had, kind of 4 months later, got knocked out cold, like real bad, in the second round. Then he followed that up with a loss to Dakota Cochran. He was winning against Dakota, controlling the fight, and then got caught in a silly guillotine at the end of the second round. Since then, he's coming off 3 straight wins. The guy's got some power in his hands. He's called Coconut Bombs for a reason. Quite a bizarre finish of Justin Sumter. Finished him with like a barrage of body shots from the clinch against the fence on the Contender Series. But he's back down at welterweight here. The guy's, he's decent. It's just I didn't like how he got knocked out. That was a bad knockout loss that he suffered against Cassius. Real brutal knockout loss. But he's avenged one of his losses to Chris Cesneros in Bellator. That fight's available as well if you guys want to go and watch that. I think his ceiling in the UFC is pretty low, but he's a fairly exciting fighter, typical Hawaiian. He's going to bring it. He's taken on Callan Potter here. Callan Potter, 35 years of age. He's Australian. The only reason he's on this UFC card, much like when he made his debut against Jalen Turner. I've watched kind of his last 3 fights. You've got the Marcin Held fight where he gets tapped very quickly in round 1. The BJ Bland fight is absolutely terrible. Wins a split decision, but man, he just looks shot to pieces in that fight. It seems like he's got knee issues. He can only really hit judo throws. His stand-up just looks slow. He gasped. It was just a horrid fade-worthy fight. And then he came in and Jalen Turner took him out in under a minute. Just not a good look. Marcin Held, Jalen Turner both winning basically 60 seconds apiece. BJ Bland, he only won, I think, against BJ Bland because BJ Bland slipped throwing a knee in round 3 and ended up giving up position on the mat. He just didn't look good in that fight at all. He's 35, and that Turner KO was real bad. One of the worst KOs you'll see. The guy looked like he was literally sleeping like a baby. At 35 as well. He's 17-8. This guy is kill or be killed. Every win he's got is inside the distance bar 1, and every loss he's got is inside the distance. 4 KO losses, 4 submission losses. So yeah, I have to go with Maki. Potter to me as well looks like a lightweight. I don't know what he's doing up at welterweight. Maki's going to be the bigger, more powerful guy here, the fresher guy. I've got to go Patty. The line on Patty was really good for a while. First day or so, it was open. Wow, he's been bet right up. It's minus 310 now. Last time I looked, he was minus 250. Says on best fight odds that his best odds were minus 195, but he was available. I know some guys jumped on him at Bet Online as a slight favourite. He was sitting around minus 160 for a while. So yeah, to be honest, I don't even really have a massive issue with minus 310. I wouldn't suggest playing it maybe because it is Maki. I'm the kind of guy that I've got a few trust issues with. It's just the kind of guy that that Dakota Cochran fight rings in my head. It wasn't the smartest fight IQ there. He looked good on the Contender Series, and I just think it's going to be too much for Potter. So I go with Pitolo to win here. Let's have a look at the inside of distance, bearing in mind what Potter's rate is like at going to a decision. Fight doesn't go to a decision is minus 300. It's a bit high, but it's probably a banker, guys. Pitolo inside the distance, minus 200. Yeah, I'm not so keen on that. I'd rather just take the fight doesn't go to a decision if I was going to play it. So, I mean, I wouldn't go big. I don't like going big on these fight goes to a decision, fight doesn't go to a decision odds. But fight doesn't go to a decision, minus 300. If you're looking for a double, I don't think that's a bad parlay leg at all there, guys. Potter's been to one decision in, 25, 26 fights. Pitolo, let's just see. Pitolo's 12-4. His 4 losses are all inside the distance. He's won 3 decisions. I saw one of them, the one with Cassius, the 5-round fight, and he kind of dominated Cassius. Had man and everything in that fight. I don't know if Potter kind of survives that barrage. And the other 2 decisions were, one was in his debut, and the other one was pretty early in his career. So yes, there's probably decent odds on that fight not going to a decision. So possible parlay leg there for you guys if you're interested. Last fight on the preliminary card, Jake Matthews, Rostem, Akman. Jake Matthews, he's been out for almost a year again. I don't know why. I did find some stuff on Instagram where he was deadlifting and he was doing it off blocks because he said he had a knee injury. So I'm assuming he's had some injury problems again, which he's been plagued by. He's had some pretty major surgeries, Jake, but up until now it hasn't affected him athletically. Still looks fine athletically. I can't believe he used to be at lightweight. He looks like a massive welterweight. Look, I am going to pick him to win here, but I just can't touch the betting line. Rostem Akman does look chinny. He's had a couple of knockout losses in his amateur career, and he did get rocked a couple of times in his UFC debut. So I'm not sold on his chin, but he does offer decent pressure. I think he took his UFC debut on short notice as well. So this fight is at a full camp. He does bring good pressure. He's got decent kind of striking when he does pressure. He tries to mix in takedowns. He didn't really have much joy against the Russian chap. I don't think he's going to be able to get Jake Matthews down. So Jake on the feet fights in like explosive spurts here. He'll fire forward with trying to land his right hand. He's got power, so there's every chance he could catch Rostem and knock him out here. But if he can't put Rostem away, this is an interesting fight because Rostem's going to be pressuring for 3 rounds. I expect with a full camp he can keep that pace up. I imagine that's his style generally. There's not a lot of tape on Rostem, so kind of going off a lot of what I saw from his UFC debut here. But I just don't trust Jake. He's just a bizarre guy. I remember betting against him against the Chinese guy. I can't remember his name now. His name escapes me. And he turned in probably a career best performance. And then his last fight against Tony Martin, I had it 1-1 going into round 3. The judges actually had Matthews 2 rounds up. It was in Australia, so what gives. But I remember getting a really good line on Tony Martin after round 2, and then he took out Matthews' calf. Matthews dove for a poor takedown and ended up getting put to sleep through a submission. So, but yeah, he does it really powerful at welterweight. So I'm going to go with Jake here. The line's not even moved. It's held at like minus 280. I thought he would have got some steam coming in, Matthews. I guess it's only Wednesday, so I do expect some late, maybe Aussie action to come in on Matthews. But yeah, there's no way I'm touching the minus 280 on Jake. I think he probably is going to... He might be able to put Rostem away, or even if he can't, he'd just win the fight with the kind of knockdowns. And he's got explosive takedowns as well. His top controls never look great though, Jake's. So he can probably mix that in as well, but he does rely on that explosiveness a lot, and it seems like he's been injured again. So these injuries and surgeries and so forth he's had, he's still young, but they've got to catch up with him because he's had so many. So yeah, I'm passing on that fight, but I will take Jake Matthews to get the W. But yeah, I just don't know where he's at, and stylistically it could be a tough fight, but Akman's chin does concern me. Right, we move forward to the main card now, guys. First up, Justin Tafa taking on Yorgan de Castro. Complete pass fight. I did try and do tape on Justin. I found a fight, I think it was a couple of years ago. He looked raw as hell. Can only really find snippets of his last couple of fights, so I can't really tell how much he's improved. I think he does his camps with Tuivasa, so I think he has been over at Tiger because I found it on his Instagram. But he's still going to be... I still imagine he's going to look pretty raw. He's very early into his MMA career. I think he's had like 3 professional fights. Yorgan de Castro, remember him from the Contender Series. He looked really bad pre-Contender Series, and then he looked a lot more solid and less green than I was expecting on the Contender Series. So it's a hard fight to call. It's heavyweights. The line's fairly close, I believe. Let's have a look where we're at now. Tafa is -125, so it's not far short of a pick. It's a pass fight, guys. Honestly, don't bet it. You're pissing in the wind. It's guesswork. Fight doesn't go to decision. -400 pass. I'm just looking at Castro. Yeah, no, pass. Just leave it alone. Let's see what Tafa looks like on the big stage. Let's even see what Yorgan looks like. The guy fought in Contender Series was a pure wrestler. Let's see how he deals with someone firing shots back at him. As I said, pre-UFC, pre-Contender Series, Castro looked terrible, but then put in a decent performance. Tafa, I just can't get a read on him. As I said, that fight I found a couple of years ago looked very green. Not sure how he looks now. There's not too much available, but you know, over at Tiger and so forth, you've got to imagine he's made some leaps in his game, but it's just hard to trust a heavyweight with 3 professional MMA fights. If you're betting it, you're digging in my opinion. I don't like low-level heavyweight fights at the best of time, and this one's just, there's going to be some serious guesswork going on. We've got Jumeau at welterweight next, taking on Dhiego Lima. Again, guys, a fight I haven't really delved too deeply into. I don't trust Dhiego Lima because of his chin issues. He's been knocked out a number of times. Jumeau just has looked very underwhelming in his UFC career. We haven't seen him he's not fought for about 18 months. Daishi Abe was the last fight. He won that fight, but he was getting wrecked early, and then I think he broke his arm or something, and it allowed Luke to come on strong. But he's just got low volume. It's just not someone I mean, he's the underdog here, but it's just not someone I want to really risk money in. I mean, to be fair to Dhiego Lima, he has looked better in his second run in the UFC. I mean, he was on the Ultimate Fighter. Jesse Taylor submitted him. He had won a few fights until he got to Jesse Taylor. He got submitted. I think he won 3 fights. Hayder Hussein, Gilbert Smith, Tom Galascio he beat, and then he ran into Jesse Taylor. He got submitted. Made his UFC second run in the UFC against Yushin Okami. Just got wrestled for 3 rounds in that fight. But since he's had a couple of more favourable stylistic fights, Chad LaPriest, he got a quick KO win over, and then he's coming off a split decision over Court McGee, which I don't think that was a split decision. I think Lima won that fight, pretty clearly. So, I mean, Court McGee seems like he's on the slide, but yeah, I mean, he's had 2 decent wins back to back. He's been more active. I've got to go Lima here. It is in Australia though. I can see it being a very close fight. Split decision wouldn't surprise me at all. Lima's -1. Look, if Lima gets bet up a bit, if Lima gets up to kind of -200 territory, and Luke's +150, probably worth a stab. At the minute, I'll pick Lima, but I mean, I wouldn't bet it. And yeah, I think if the line moves much more, another half a point, or even 0.4 points, Luke might be worth a stab, but not a fight I'm particularly interested in, guys. It's low level, it's on the main card. Like I said, this card absolutely stinks for a pay-per-view besides the top 2 fights. Next fight, we've got Tuivasa taking on Sergey Spivac. Tuivasa, he's a tough guy. He's definitely improved from his pre-UFC run. You saw his fight with James McSweeney. He looked terrible. Everyone was trying to fade him coming into the UFC because of that fight, but he's clearly improved. He does his camps at Tiger. Won his first 3 fights. Rashad Coulter, Cyril Asker, Andrei Arlovsky. Close fight, but I don't think it was overly controversial. Then he was doing well against Junior Dos Santos, but ultimately he got caught and he got stopped, and he's coming off a decision loss to Ivanov. Good fight, that one. Ivanov clearly won, but Ty showed a solid chin in that fight. Spivac, I mean, he's blown away by Walt Harris. You can't really read too much into that fight. He just got blown away by Walt. Walt's got some serious power, but I mean, you watch his fights prior. There's a fair bit of tape available on him. He's fought no one decent. doesn't look great in the tape. He seems more of a kind of grappler kind of style, and I just think he's going to struggle to get. I don't see him really getting tired down and keeping him down, and I think he's going to be outclassed on the feet. So I'm going to go with Ty here. But guys, he's minus 400 basically. You can't be touching that. Ty inside the distance, minus 250. Probably that's just a pass fight, guys. Low level heavyweight again. I know Ty's line was sitting around, I think, minus 250 for a bit. I think that was worth a play then, especially if he was looking for a double to play. But now it's just a pass. But yeah, I think Ty's probably going to get a fairly comfortable win here. So I'll go with Ty to win by knockout. Right, first of two very good fights on the card. We've got the co-main event. We've got Dan Hooker taking on Iaquinta. Really looking forward to this fight. Much like last week, I actually made a bet on Dan Hooker before I did tape. So I did this with Callan last week, and I regretted it after tape. Although, in hindsight, I didn't need to have any regret. To be fair, I've got the same feeling again this week, though, albeit last week after doing tape I was fairly confident Joker was going to beat Callan. This fight I'm finding it really hard to call. I took the line on Hooker because Betfair Exchange had Hooker at minus 120, and I thought he'd probably be a bit of a bigger favourite, so I could buy out if I wanted to. That has transpired. He's sitting at like minus 165 at the moment, Dan Hooker, so I can free roll now and guarantee myself either to break even if Al wins, or small profit if Dan wins. I'm probably going to wait and see how my bets go on the day, and then I'll decide what to do with regards to this fight. I imagine Hooker stays the favourite, so I should be able to buy out if need be. So yeah, I'm finding it really hard to split these two. So Dan Hooker, he's definitely improved. He's definitely better at lightweight than when he was at featherweight. One of the fights that does ring in my head here with this fight is the Jason Knight fight, but Hooker is a different animal at 155, and he has clearly improved. That fight was 3 years ago. I mean, you see the fight with Ross Pearson, he tries to fight long, uses a lot of leg kicks on Ross, has a really good round one. Round two, Pearson does start finding his range, starts landing on Hooker, closer round, Hooker lands that knee. The Mark Diakase fight, not a lot really happened through the first 2 rounds. Dan again fought on the outside, neither of them threw much. Diakase got more aggressive at the start of round 3, started landing on the feet, and then he bizarrely shot for that takedown and he ended up getting guillotined. Jim Miller fight though, Hooker came out a lot more aggressive, really put it on Jim, looked really good, took him out with that knee a few minutes in. Against Gilbert Burns again, very aggressive, put Gilbert down twice. Second time the fight was stopped. He had a big shot himself as he landed the left hook on Burns, and it just didn't move Hooker seems to have a granite chin. The Edson Barboza fight, I mean, stylistically it was always going to be a tough fight for him. He kind of adopted this kickboxing style, and it's, you know, there's not many people that can win a kickboxing match against Edson Barboza, and Hooker fouled, and it fouled big time, took a lot of punishment, not so much to the head. I mean, he did take a few, solid blows to the head, but a lot of it was body attack. And then he's coming off the quick James Vick KO, where again he seemed to fight more aggressive in that fight. So it's interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see what style Hooker approaches here. I imagine he could fight long. He could try and fight long here, but he seems to have adopted that more aggressive style. But that's gonna kind of play into Iaquinta's hands, because Iaquinta will throw bombs. He's got decent boxing. The Cowboy fight was actually interesting for me on rewatch. It's always hard for me to judge rounds when I'm capping a fight, because I'm not really, I'm looking for certain things. I'm not like judging a fight, but you could make a case that Al was 2 rounds up going into round 3 against Cowboy. Things all went downhill from round 3 onwards, but the first 2 rounds were, worst case, very, very competitive. And before that, he's coming off a win over Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee just slowed down in that fight. Different stylistic dynamic though. So it's hard really to find. I mean, you've obviously got the Cowboy fight, but before that, it's just hard to find a kind of matchup where it's, you know, in any way similar. I mean, I had to go back. I mean, the only fight really that I could watch of ours that I think has any kind of real relevance to this fight is the Jorge Masvidal fight. But even that isn't a great parallel to this fight, just because of, I mean, Masvidal just did absolutely nothing in that fight after round one. He just switched off. I don't really have a problem with that decision going to out. Jorge just didn't do anything. So really, you're going off the Cerrone fight here. Now, Al, he's actually got decent leg kicks as well. That's something that surprised me, going back and doing tape on him. I watched the Ross Pearson fight as well, but it's just not similar to Hooker. The only real relevant fight is the Cerrone fight. Al's got a chin on him. He's never been stopped. So this fight probably sees the scorecards. I did look at goes the distance, and I think it was minus 200 last time I looked. It's now, yeah, still minus 200. It's a little bit steep though. I'm not chomping at the bit to play that, I've got to say. But these are definitely two durable guys. Al's got some power. I can't see him having the power to put Dan Hooker away though. I mean, you know, Al does crack, but you know, his last KO's over Dhiego Sanchez, who's shot to pieces, and before that, Joe Lozon, who even back in 2015 was, I remember betting Al Iaquinta against Joe Lozon actually, and then he put Ross Pearson away. But these are all fighters that, I mean, they were all even on the slide back then. I mean, now they're kind of completely done, but just can't see him having the power to put Hooker away or put Hooker down. Whereas, although I find it hard to see Hooker stopping Al, I wouldn't be surprised if he manages to drop him. I mean, Hooker does have power. He's got them really good knees that are going to be here against Al. Al being a bit shorter than like someone like James Vick, where they're not there, but he's got them really good knees, and Al does kind of lean over his front foot, so the knee potential is going to be there. And Dan's shown that he's got some power in his hands as well, but he is defensively flawed, so he is there to be hit. So I'm just trying to remember everything I picked up from tape, because I taped this about 10 days ago now, but I came away just think from pre-tape thinking I was going to be really confident in Hooker, to coming away just not really being. I mean, I'm still going to pick Hooker, but I definitely undervalued Al pre-tape, and I wouldn't be shocked for Al to win this fight. You know, as I said, Hooker is there to be hit. It's going to be interesting to see what style he comes in with. Is he going to try and fight this at range, or is he going to be real aggressive and get in Al's face? He's got a decent reach advantage, so I wonder if he does try and kickbox long here. That's the other thing. I'm just not sure how he's going to approach the fight style wise. It just makes it hard to call. So I'm really not confident in a pick here. I think the line is probably a little bit too wide for Dan. Like I said, I jumped on minus 120 on the exchange. Managed to get £1,000 matched before I did the tape, and I mean, to be honest, I'd line this as a pick-em. Hooker maybe a slight favourite. So yeah, I'll see how I do on the night before I decide what I'm going to do. But I'm definitely not in love with the bet, and I'll pick Hooker, but I'm not confident. Fight goes to a decision is probably the safest bet in my opinion, but you know, minus 200, I would prefer the minus 150. I don't really want to be paying minus 200 on a fight that goes to decision against two guys that can crack, that are probably going to stand for 3 rounds and bang it out. So I'll go with Hooker to win the decision, but not an overly confident pick there. Just didn't come away with a great read on that fight. Main event, what a fight. Robert Whittaker defending his middleweight crown against Israel Adesanya. Another tough fight to call this one. Robert Whittaker, phenomenal talent. I just really hope injuries aren't going to be the story of his career when it's all said and done. He's been out for about 16 months by the time he faces Israel, Before that, he had a year off between fights with Yeon. He suffered injuries in both the Yeon fights. He had that bad staph infection. I know he's spoken about depression and stuff as well. I just hope his body isn't failing him. That is a bit of a concern for me going into this fight. Now, I don't like capping based on potential injuries affecting fighters athletically and so forth. I've tried to do it in the past and it never really seems to factor in. It seems to be guesswork, and as a capper, I have to put it to one side and ignore it. I've been burnt trying to play doctor too many times in the past, so I don't do it anymore. So I'm going to treat this as we're going to get the best Robert Whittaker. He's only 28 years of age. That is how I'm viewing this fight. We're going to see the best Robert Whittaker on Saturday. Injuries aren't going to be blighting him. I have to take that approach. Now, he's coming off that split decision win over Yoel Romero. I bet Rob Whittaker in that fight, and it is probably the worst sweat of my betting career. I think I had a max bet on him, so I probably had about $4,000 on him. He coasted the first couple of rounds, and then he gets caught in round, I think it was round 3, he gets caught, and it just becomes an enormous sweat. I thought fair result probably would have been a draw. But you know, I wasn't complaining because I had the bet on him, but he got that split decision win. I mean, the year prior when he fought Yoel, it was pretty comfortable win. But I mean, Yoel's just a completely different stylistic matchup. I mean, he just hasn't faced anyone like Israel. No one that's going to pose the problems that Israel will on the feet. I mean, when we look at Israel, we're going to say the same for Israel taking on Rob, but yeah, he just hasn't faced anyone like Adesanya on the feet. I mean, you go back and look at his record. I mean, got knocked out by Stephen Thompson when he was down at welterweight, but he's just looked much better at middleweight. But the middleweight run, I mean, the best striker he's beaten is probably, I mean, he's got that quick win over Brad Tavares, and he beat Uriah Hall. You know, otherwise he's kind of fought, you know, his last 4 fights have been against wrestler boxers, so it's going to be interesting here. I mean, he's not going to have to worry about the takedown threat, which, you know, was there against Brunson, it was there against Jacare, it's there against Romero both times, but I mean, he always showed him impeccable takedown defence, did Rob. So he's going to get a stand-up fight here. Is he going to use his wrestling in this fight? I don't know, maybe, but Israel's takedown defence definitely steadily improved. But I think we've seen this fight play out on the feet, but it's just hard to get a real read on how Rob's going to look against Israel on the feet, just because it's definitely a step up in class in terms of the type of opponent he's facing here on the feet. I mean, Israel is one of the best strikers we've got in MMA, so real interesting dynamic here. Israel's unbeaten in MMA still, 17-0. Speaking of sweats, these two have both made me sweat in their last 2 fights, because I had a sizable bet on Israel against Gastelum, and I had that fight 2-2 going into round 5, where Israel clearly dominated round 5 to pull away and get the W, but it was a pretty sweaty fight, great fight with Gastelum. Israel's he's steadily improved in the UFC, I would say. He had his debut against Rob Wilkinson, who was a grinder. He lost round 1 in that fight, got grinded against the fence, but Rob just couldn't keep up the kind of style that he had to, and just gassed. Marvin Vettori, I don't think that should be a split decision. I thought Israel won the first 2 rounds in that fight, but he did drop round 3, got taken down, got wrestled a little bit. Then he fought Brad Tavares. A real classy performance against Brad Tavares, just completely outclassed him for 5 rounds. Derek Brunson was desperation mode for takedowns in that fight, got shut down completely, and stopped before the first bell went. And Anderson Silva, I bet Israel in that fight as well, had him closing a parlay, and a bit of a sweat. I had that fight 1-1 going into round 3. Round 3 clearly won, but I think Anderson is difficult to look good against, even now. still difficult, and I think there's still that respect factor fighters have for him as well. But yeah, he did drop a round there, and then he's coming off the fight with Gastelum, and as I said, that was 2 rounds apiece going into round 5, and he did get hurt by Gastelum in that fight as well. So interesting. I mean, this is easily Israel's toughest opponent today in MMA. What I can say is I think it will be a stand-up fight. I don't think this is going to see the mat. I think they are going to stand up. I give the power edge to Rob Whittaker for sure. Israel isn't. I mean, he had Gastelum in big trouble, but that was more of kind of accumulation, and he's got 13 KOs from 17 wins, but he's not a massive puncher, Israel. If he does knock Rob out, more than likely it's going to be him catching him with like a head kick or something fairly low percentage. Rob has shown that he has got power, and we saw him sleep Brad Tavares very quickly, put away Brunson, put away Jacare, although that was kind of initiated with head kicks, funnily enough. So it's just a real hard fight to call, this one. But I do say always, this is a betting podcast. We like to look at the betting lines, and Rob Whittaker is actually the underdog now, which seems a little bit disrespectful. I think people have forgotten just how good Rob is. So as a bettor, now I personally am not betting this fight. I'm going to live bet it, see how it goes. But as a bettor, I would, if you put a gun to my head and said I had to bet someone, I would go with Rob based on the current lines. The underdog. I mean, I think he was up at minus 150 line's been out on this for a long time, but Best Fight Odds is telling me he was minus 185 at one point, and now he's the underdog. So yeah, I think that's a bit disrespectful. And like I said earlier, I'm going to assume we're going to see the best Rob here, and there's not going to be any injury hang-ups or anything like that. The fight to go to a decision is plus 130. Now, because a 5-round fight, these main events do tend to finish inside the distance, but it's going to be hard to put. I mean, Rob has been stopped before, but that was at welterweight against Wonderboy. That's the only time he's been stopped in his career. Oh, he's got submission loss as well. A triangle choke. Yeah, that's just when he was, just starting out his career. So he's just got the 1 KO loss. That was to Wonderboy. I mean, if Israel lands something flush like a head kick and even though I say it's low percentage for someone like Israel Adesanya, there's a higher chance of him landing something like that than most people. So it isn't as low percentage as your normal person. But I don't see him putting him away with punches. Rob's got power. I mean, Israel got hurt by a Gastelum head kick of all things. I think he was a little bit tired and he just got caught with that head kick. So I mean, it's definitely not a safe bet. It's going to make you sweat because they're going to be standing. There's not going to be any kind of cage hugging, I wouldn't have thought, where you kind of buy a few minutes of respite where you can relax if you've bet that goes a distance, or if they hit the mat and someone's sitting in someone's guard, you get a bit of respite. Can't see that here. It's going to be a full-on sweat. But there might be a little bit of value on this fight to goes to a decision at plus 130. But yeah, I'm probably passing on this fight completely. I'll live bet it. I'm really excited to see how it goes. I'm hoping it's going to be a good live bet fight. I can see it being close and back and forth, but on the current line, I have to pick Whittaker as the underdog here, guys. So that's the picks. As I said at the start, disappointing card. The 2 top fights, great fights, but besides that, a real weak card for a pay-per-view card. But it's in Australia, so they're trying to tailor it for the local market. So, but I thought there would have been a few more high-profile guys on it than what they've come up with. But the 2 top fights are great fights, so I'm really looking forward to them. If you go back to the first 10 minutes, guys, I've told you kind of how we done last week and told you about what we're offering at the moment. Just quickly, 12 months for live betting and pre-bets, £195 for the year or $240. Go back and listen to the first 10 minutes for more information on that. I'll tell you all about the service. I'll tell you about how transparent we are. I'll tell you about how you can approach us with any questions. I'll tell you how all our bets are tracked, etc. So just go and listen to that bit. Talks to you as well how to contact us with regards to payment. And as I said at the start as well, there's live betting Friday night for the boxing, and there's going to be live betting for UFC 243. So good luck everyone with your bets. Hope you cash them. Any questions, DM me or drop them on the YouTube channel, and please hit the subscribe button on YouTube as well. Good luck everyone.